Hey guys, my name is Roy Fraser. This is my book review for Emerging Technology for the Daniels College of Business. I did my reading on the product book, How to Become a Great Product Manager. It was written by Josh Annan and also Carlos Gonzalez. Um, so, starting off, the book starts basically speaking about the basics of product management. And the first thing that caught my eye during this portion of the book were the different types of personas that the book likes to speak about the personas. And persona is basically a fictional typical customer that you would see in the real world. Um, and it defines key personas and lets you segment your customers by highlighting things your customers care about that are relevant to your product in the real world. And personas are tools to help you understand your customers, but they aren't actually real customers, obviously. And moving on from that, the authors wrote about the most important differences between working with business to business and or selling to business or business to consumer products. And that was pretty interesting for me personally. Being in the business school right now, we speak a lot about these two different selling forms. Right now, I'm in a sales class right now that's mostly business to business. So it was interesting to hear the author's perspectives on the business side of things. But it was also interesting to see business to consumer side of things. Did I say business to? Yeah, I think I said business to consumer. But yeah, it was interesting to see their views on the business to consumer side of things. And it also spoke a lot in this portion of the book about data. So making decisions with when you actually get the data. So when you're a product manager, making decisions with the data you have at hand and what kinds of data you have, which was surprising to me because I didn't even really know that there was different kinds of data. I thought data was just one kind of big lump of numbers that you get from that your BIA guys analyze. But yeah, it's interesting to see that. I was intrigued by the different kinds of data that they spoke about. And then moving on from that, they also mentioned that it's important to use metrics to see how successful your product actually is when it hits the shelf. So using things like KPIs, for example, is a good way to measure how successful your product really is, rather than just looking at like sales or something like that. And off the point of metrics, the authors wrote about the difference between vanity metrics and actionable metrics. So a vanity metric is basically they don't help you understand your own performance in a way that informs future strategies. So um, these this was actually interesting to me because in a world right now with like social media, especially at my age, you would think that. So an example of a vanity metric would be like page view or install numbers. And I would think that these would be actionable metrics just because like as a young person you look at like social media, okay, how successful is this post? It has like 200 likes or whatever compared to something that has 150 likes, but they don't actually use this to help they don't use this to help inform future strategies. And that's basically an actionable metric is something that's the opposite of that. So a metric that directly relates to specific business actions um, for observable results. So that was the end of that kind of section that was probably one of the more interesting parts of the book in my opinion. But moving on, the books spoke about different frameworks we could use to form priorities in our businesses. So one thing that stuck out was the 5 C's framework. So that's company, customer, collaborators, competitors, and the climate. So you use these 5 different areas to really create a good framework for your business. And then the prioritization framework, which helps, it basically, it's like which products will have the most potential based on different things like value versus effort frameworks. Um, so the authors state that in the early stages of your product, it is really important to get feedback from your customers for future prioritizations. So getting feedback on what these customers like more than what parts of the product they like more than others. So on the topic of prioritization, in the mindset of a product manager, we have to be able to say no, as we're not able to focus on every single idea that comes to the table. And this could be for various reasons. Like some reasons could be due to time, or maybe it's just not the best idea, because I'll say things in class and I'll be like, how did I even think of that after I think about it for a second? But so we have to be able to obviously detect between a good and bad ideas when they're brought to the table. And learning and saying no can be difficult, especially in this day and age. I feel like people are getting a little bit more sensitive, but we have to be able to say no politely, but also we have to explain how their product or their idea just might not be the best return on our investment. And moving forward, I was then able to learn how to take the role from a customer, like put in the customer's shoes, and how to get in the mindset of the user. And this is, and I realized that they talked about there's never a moment where the product manager will ever be an average user, just because no matter how much you try and put yourself in their shoes, the inside and out of your product. So you're going to be a little bit biased to certain things. So you really do need to try and get in the mindset of the consumer. In order to get this mindset and this perspective, the authors say it's good to conduct good interviews with users. And one of the key takeaways from this section of the book is avoiding leading questions and always remaining neutral. And this is where I chose Whoop as my favorite company at the moment, but there are a few things that bug me, and I think this book, they could read this book and maybe take a few actions. It's always asking for, like, do you like how much do you like this app, for like a rating. It's like trying to get you to rate it. It'll be like, how much do you like this app? And in my opinion, that's a leading question. And they ask for a rating a lot. And when it says a biased rating like that, it makes me want to rate it lower than it actually should, because I don't know, it's just a bit annoying. So I think they should avoid the leading questions and maybe take a note from this book. And the next topic was about MVPs, which stands for minimum viable product, which basically describes the minimum feature that we can create that will address an opportunity for your target customer. So basically, what's the core function you're trying to get, trying to let customers accomplish. And again, you really need to test this with real customers, and which will give them the best idea of what will be in and out of the scope. An example of like a non-MVP mindset or approach would basically be trying to build the perfect product with a bunch of different features that customers in the end probably won't even use. And the authors mentioned making sure the priorities of these features are set, because this is when I'm going to go back to Whoop for the second example on Whoop. They use this if you get logged out of the app, it makes you do a two authentic verification, which is really annoying. And I feel like the developers of that portion of the app, or maybe just the app in general, thought that a authentic verification was really important. But I don't think there's that much valuable information. A Whoop is basically a fitness band that you can track like your workouts and things like that. So there's really not there's not much valuable personal information on there. So I think they should have set like they should have had a priority of like, is this really important to the user? Because in the end of the day, that two authentic verification, it just takes more time out of my day, and I don't really care for it if it's not really protecting any personal information to me. So Whoop, if you're watching this, just maybe look into that, because I'm a member of your product. And then and coming towards the end here, the book, since it is a product management book, one of the main topics it spoke about was about being agile. So the book compares the difference between waterfall development and agile development, which I had never heard of before. I mean, a lot of this book was really new to me. So a waterfall development is the oldest style of software development, and has strict and very formal stages, and is named waterfall because you can't actually move on to the next stage of development until the current one is completed. And once the designated stages are completed, the coders then come in and they begin to design code and the testing phases. And one of the main benefits of the waterfall is that everyone will know what the product will be, because from the beginning there's already a detailed like spec of what the product is from the start. That's what, and then they follow on from the stages there. And agile is basically the opposite. It's basically about being adaptive and flexible and embracing changes. And I think that's if I was a product manager personally, that's where I think I would steer towards, just because I don't know, I feel like for me to be creative, I can't have everything set in stone. I need like smaller boundaries. And the final thing I wanted to mention about the book is feel like a lot of people would overlook this, and I'm glad the authors wrote about it, is just how are you actually going to get your product to the market? Because people really overlook, because they're focused like on the early stages of development, not really towards the end. So my marketing mindset kicked in is, how are you going to evolve it? How are you going to promote it? How will users purchase it? Things like that. So I thought that was interesting, just from my marketing perspective. So yeah, my final opinions on the book, I thought it was really interesting, especially when I'm learning in my emerging technologies class right now. I'm trying to develop new products, so it was interesting to see how in the real world, how product managers, when they get a product on the table, how are they going to develop it, and how are they going to follow up with these stages. So it was really interesting to read about that. Obviously the book goes into a lot more detail than this video, but I just wanted to cover what I thought was most important and how I could relate it to the real world. So I used the Whoop as example, no copyright or whatever, no legal purposes. And yeah, that was what was most important, and that was what was interesting to me. So thank you. Like, subscribe, comment down below what book I should review next. See you guys. Bye.